Jeff the Killer is a very popular and nostalgic creepypasta, which, honestly, looking back on it, isn't the greatest piece of literature. But for fun, I decided to do my own non-serious rendition of this beloved pasta, with some minor tweaks in the story, either for animation purposes or just because I found it funny, honestly. So, without further ado, I present to you a terrible animation and narration of Jeff the Killer. The killer is still at large. After a week of unexplained murders, the ominous unknown killer is still on the rise. After little evidence has been found, a young boy states that he survived one of his attacks and bravely tells his story in this flashback.
I had a bad dream and woke up in the middle of the night. For some reason, the window was open, even though I remembered it being closed. Before I went to bed, I got up and shut it once more. Afterwards, I simply crawled under my covers and tried to get back to sleep. And that's when I had a strange feeling. Like someone was watching me. I looked up and nearly got jumped out of my bed. There, in a little ray of light, illuminating from between my curtains, were a pair of two eyes. They weren't regular eyes, they were dark and ominous eyes. They were bordered in black and just plain out terrifying. That's when I saw his mouth, a long, horrendous smile that made every hair on my body stand up. The figure stood there watching me. After what seemed like forever, he said it. A simple phrase. But said it in a way only a madman could speak. He said, "Go to sleep." I let out a scream. And that's what sent him at me. He pulled up a knife, aiming at my heart, jumped off the top of the bed, and I fought him back. I kicked, I punched, I rolled around trying to knock him off me. Huh? That's when my dad busted in. The man threw the knife. It went into my dad's shoulder. The man turned and ran down the hallway. I heard a smash like glass breaking. As I came out of my room, I saw that the window that was pointing towards the back of the house was broken. I looked out of it to see him vanish into the distance. I can tell you one thing, I will never forget that face. Those cold, evil eyes, and that psychotic smile. They will never leave my head.
Police are still on the look for this man that the boy described. If you see anyone that fits the description in this story, please contact your local police department. Jeff and his family had just moved into a new neighborhood. His dad had gotten a promotion at work, and they thought it would be best to live in one of those fancy neighborhoods. Jeff and his brother Louis, however, couldn't complain now. A new, better house. What was not a love? As we were getting unpacked, one of their neighbours came by.
Hello? My name's Barbara. I live across the street from you. Well, I just wanted to introduce myself and to my son. Say hi, Billy.
She turns around and calls over her son, Billy.
Billy, these are your new neighbors.
Hi. Billy ran back to his backyard.
Well, I'm Margaret, and this is my husband Peter, and my two sons Jeff and Lou.
They had introduced themselves, and then Barbara invited them to her son's birthday party. Jeff and his brother were about to object, but then his mother said that they would love to. When Jeff and his family are done packing, and they all got inside the house, Jeff went up to his mom.
Mom, why would you invite us to some kid's birthday party? If you haven't noticed, I'm not some dumb kid.
Jeff, we just moved here. We should show that we want to spend some time with our neighbors. Now, we're going to that party, and that's final.
Jeff started to talk, but stopped himself, knowing that he couldn't do anything, really. Whenever his mom said something, it was final. He walked up to his room and plopped down on his bed. He sat there, looking at the ceiling for a bit, when suddenly, he got a weird feeling. Not so much a pain, but a weird feeling. He dismissed it as some sort of random feeling. He heard his mother call him up to go get his stuff, and he walked up the stairs to get it. The next day, Jeff walked upstairs to get his breakfast. As he sat there eating his breakfast, he once again got that feeling. This time it was stronger. It got him in a slight tugging pain, but once again he dismissed it. As he and Louis finished dinner, they walked out to the bus stop. They sat there, waiting for the bus, and then all of a sudden some kid on a skateboard jumped over them, only inches above their laps. They were both surprised.
Hey, what the hell?
The kid landed and turned back. He kicked his skateboard up and caught with his hand. The kid seemed to be about 12, 1 year younger than Jeff.
Well, looks like we got some new meat.
Suddenly 2 other kids appeared. One was super skinny, and the other was huge.
Well, since you're new here, I'd like to introduce ourselves. Over there is Keith.
Jeff and Louis looked over at the skinny kid. He had a dopey face that you would expect his sidekick to have.
And here's Troy.
They looked over at the fat kid. Talking about a tub of lard. This kid looked like he hadn't exercised since he was crawling. And I, the first kid,
am Randy.
Now for all the kids in this neighborhood, there's a small price to pay for bus fare, if you catch my drift. Louis stood up, ready to punch the light out of the kid's eyes, when one of his friends pulled a knife on him. I'd hope you'd be more cooperative, but it seems like we must do this the hard way. The kid walked up to Louis and took his wallet out of his pocket. Jeff got that feeling again, though. Now it was truly strong. A burning sensation. He stood up, but Louis gestured him to sit down. Jeff ignored him, though. and walked up to the kid.
Listen here, you little punk. Give me back my bro's wallet, or else.
Randy put the wallet in his pocket and pulled out his own knife.
Oh? And what will you do?
Just as he finished that sentence, Jeff popped the kid in the nose. As Randy reached for his face, Jeff grabbed the kid's wrist and broke it. Randy screamed, and Jeff grabbed the knife from his hand. Randall fell to the floor as both Keith and Troy started to rush him, but Jeff was too fast. Keith lashed out at him, but Jeff ducked and stabbed him in the arm. Keith dropped his knife and fell to the ground screaming. Troy rushed him too, but Jeff didn't even need the knife. He just punched Troy straight in the stomach, and Troy went down as he fell. He peeked all over. Louis could do nothing but look in amazement at Jeff and his creepypasta powers.
Jeff, how did you...
That was all he said. Then he saw the bus coming and knew he'd be blamed for the whole thing. So they started running as fast as they could. As they ran, they looked back and saw the bus driver rushing it over to Randy and the others. As Jeff and Louis made it to school, they didn't dare tell anyone what happened. All they did was sit and listen. Louis just thought of that his brother was beating up a few kids. But Jeff knew it was more. It was something scary. As he got that feeling, he felt how powerful it was. The urge to just hurt someone. He didn't like how it sounded, but he couldn't help feeling happy. He felt that strange feeling go away and stay away for the entire day of school. When he got home, his parents asked him how his day was, and he said in a somewhat ominous voice,
It was a wonderful day.
Next morning, he heard a knock on the door. He walked down to find 2 police officers at the door. Holy shit, it's the cops! His mother was looking back at him with an angry look.
Jeff, these officers tell me that you attacked 3 kids, that it wasn't regular fighting, and that they were stabbed. Stabbed, son?!
Jeff's head fell to the floor, showing his mother that it was true.
Mom, they were the ones who pulled knives on me and Louis.
Son, said one of the cops, we found 3 kids, 2 stabbed, 1 having a bruise on his stomach, and we have witnesses proving that you fled the scene. Now what does that tell us? Jeff knew it was no use. He could say him and Louis had been attacked, but then there was no proof it was not them who attacked first. They couldn't say that they weren't fleeing because, should be told, they were. So Jeff couldn't defend himself or Louis. Son, call down your brother. Jeff couldn't do it, since it was him who beat up all the kids.
Sir, it was me. I was the one who beat up all the kids. Louis tried to hold me back, but he couldn't stop me.
The cop looked at his partner and they both nodded. Well, kid, looks like a year in juvie.
Well,
Says Louis. They all looked up to see him holding a knife. The officers pulled their guns and locked them on Louis.
it was me. I beat up all those little punks. I have the mark to prove it.
He showed off his arm, which was covered in cuts and bruises, like he'd been in a struggle. Son, just put the knife down, said the officer. Louis held up the knife and dropped it to the ground. He put his hands up and walked over to the cops.
No, Louis. It was me. I did it.
Jeff had tears running down his face.
Ha! Poor bro, trying to take the blame for what I did. Well, take no eye.
The police officer led Louis to the patrol car.
Louis, tell them it was me. Tell them I was the one who beat up those kids.
Jeff's mother put a hand on his shoulders.
Jeff, please. You don't need to lie. We know it's Lou. You can stop. He's already dead to us.
Jeff watched helplessly as the cop car speeds off with Louie inside. A few minutes later, Jeff's dad pulled it in a driveway, seeing Jeff's face and knowing something was wrong.
Sean, what is it?
Jeff couldn't answer. His vocal cords were strained from crying. Instead, Jeff's mother walked his father inside to break the bad news to him. Jeff wept in the driveway. After an hour or so, Jeff walked back to the house. Seeing his parents were both shocked, sad, and disappointed. He couldn't look at them. He couldn't see how they thought of Louie, when it was his fault. He just went to sleep. Trying to get the whole thing off his mind, 2 days went by with no word from Louie at GDC. No friends to hang out with, nothing but sadness and guilt. That is, until Saturday, when Jeff is woke up by his mother with a happy, sunshiny face.
Jeff, it's the day.
His mother said as she loomed above him in his and Louie's room.
What's the day?
Asked Jeff as he stays awake.
Why, it's Billy's party.
He was now fully awake.
Mom, you're joking, right? You don't expect me to go to some kid's birthday party after...
There was a long pause.
Jeff, we both know what happened. I think this party could be the one thing that brightens up the past few days. Now, get dressed.
Jeff's mother left the room and went upstairs to get ready herself. He fought himself to get up and walked upstairs. He saw his mother and father all dressed up.
Son, is that all you're going to wear?
Better than wearing too much,
He said. His mother pushed down the feeling to yell at him and hid it with a smile. What a bitch.
Now, Jeff, we may be overdressed, but this is how we go if you want to make a good impression,
said his father. Jeff was wearing his iconic white hoodie and black pants, something that he'd always wear every time, never changed out of. Stunk.
You're wearing
going in
that?
His mother looked at her watch.
Oh, no time to change. Let's just go.
She said as she headed Jeff and his father out the door and across the street to Barbara and Billy's house. They knocked on the door. As Jeff walked inside, all he could see was adults. No kids in sight. And strangely enough, the environment had entirely changed.
The kids are all out in the yard, Jeff. How about you go and meet them?
Said Barbara. Jeff walked outside to a yard full of kids. They were running around in weird cowboy costumes and shooting each other with plastic guns. He might as well be selling like toys on us. Suddenly a kid came up to him and handed him a toy gun.
Hey, wanna play?
He said.
No, kid. I'm way too old for this stuff.
The kid looked at him with a weird puppy dog face.
Please?
Said the kid.
Fine,
Said Jeff. He started to pretend to shoot at the kids. At first he thought it was totally ridiculous, but then he started to actually have fun. It might have not been super cool, but it was the first time he had done something that took his mind off Louie. So he played with the kids for a while until he heard a noise. A weird rolling noise. And it hit him. Randy, Troy, and Keith all jumped over the fence on their skateboards.
get off!
Jeff dropped the fake gun and stared at Randy. Randy looked at Jeff with a burning hatred.
Hello, Jeff, is it? He said. We have some unfinished business.
Jeff looked at his crumpled, broken hand.
I think we're even. I beat the crap out of you, and you got my brother sent to JDC.
Randy got a angry look on his eyes.
Oh no, I don't go for even. I go for winning. You may have kicked our asses that one day, but not today.
As he said that, Randy rushed at Jeff. They both fell into the ground. Randy punched Jeff in the nose. Jeff grabbed him by the ear and headbutted him. Jeff pushed Randy off him,
and both rose to their feet.
Kids are screaming and parents are running out of the house. Troy and Keith both pulled out guns with their pockets.
Nobody move, or guts will fly! Randy, catch!
Randy pulled a knife on Jeff
and stabbed it into his shoulder. Jeff screamed, "Ah!" Then fell to his knees. Randy started kicking him in the face. After 3 kicks, Jeff grabbed his foot and twisted it, causing Randy to fall on the ground. Jeff stood up and walked towards the back door. Troy grabbed him.
Need help?
He picks Jeff up by the back of his collar and throws him through the patio door. As Jeff tries to stand, Randy comes into the house.
Holy
Jeff is
got a gun.
kicked out of the ground. Randy repeatedly starts kicking Jeff until he starts to cough up blood.
"Come on, Jeff, fight me!"
He picks up Jeff and throws him into the kitchen. Randy sees a bottle of vodka on the counter and smashes the glass over Jeff's head.
"Fight!"
He throws Jeff back into the liquor. "Come on, Jeff, look at me." Jeff glances up, his face riddled with blood.
"I was the one who got your brother sent to JDC, and now you're just gonna sit here and let him rot in there for a whole year? You should be ashamed."
Jeff starts to get up.
"Oh, finally, you can stand up and fight."
Jeff is now to his feet, blood and vodka on his face. Once again, he gets that strange feeling, the one in which he hasn't felt for a while.
"Finally, he's up,"
says Randy. As he runs at Jeff, that's when it happens. Something inside Jeff snaps. His psyche is destroyed. All rational thinking is gone. All he can do is kill. He grabs Randy and pile drives him to the ground. He gets on top of him and punches him straight in the heart. The punch causes Randy's heart to stop. As Randy gasps for breath, Jeff hammered down on him. Punch after punch after punch. Blood gushes from Randy's body as he takes one final breath and dies. Everyone is looking at Jeff now. The parents, the crying kids, even Troy and Keith. Although they easily break free from their gaze and point their guns at Jeff, Jeff sees the guns trained on him and runs further into the house. As he runs, Troy and Keith let out fire on him, each shot missing. Jeff runs into the bedroom, shutting the door behind him to block the incoming fire as Troy and Keith run out of ammo. While the two made their way to Jeff, he runs into the bathroom and finds an exposed pipe. Jeff rips the pipe out of the wall and heads back into the bedroom just as Troy and Keith enter. Troy attacks first. He tries to use the back of his gun to beat Jeff with, but Jeff backs away and bangs the pipe into Troy's face. Troy goes down hard. Now all that's left is Keith. He's more agile than Troy though, and ducks when Jeff swings the pipe. Keith grabs Jeff by the neck and pushes him into the bathroom. A thing of bleach fell down on him from a table. It burned both of them. As they both started to scream, Jeff wiped his eyes as best he could. He pulled back the pipe and swung it straight into Keith's head. As he lay there, bleeding to death, he let out an ominous smile.
"What's so funny?"
asked Jeff. Keith pulled out a lighter and switched it on.
What's funny is that you're covered in bleach and alcohol.
Jeff's eyes widened. Keith threw the lighter on him, and as soon as it made contact with him, he burst into flames. Jeff started to panic. He desperately ran out of the bathroom and started to roll around on the floor. It was no use though, and with the last bit of remaining strength, he ran out into the hallway and fell down. Everyone started screaming as they saw Jeff, now a man on fire, drop to the ground nearly dead. The last thing Jeff saw was his mother and the other parents trying to extinguish the flame. That's when he passed out. When Jeff woke up, he had a cast wrapped around his face. He couldn't feel anything, but he felt stitches all over his body. He tried to stand, but then a jolt of pain went through his body, and he ended up falling on the floor. And a nurse rushed in.
I don't think he can get out of bed just yet.
She said as she put him back in his bed. Jeff sat there with no vision, no idea of what his surroundings were. Finally, after hours, he heard his mother.
Honey, are you okay?
She asked. He couldn't answer though, his face was covered, and he was unable to speak.
Oh, honey, I have great news. After all the witnesses told the police that Randy confessed to trying to attack you, they decided to let Lou go.
This made Jeff almost bolt up, stopping halfway though due to pain.
He'll be out by tomorrow, and then you two will be able to be back together again.
Jeff's mother hugs him and says goodbye. Weeks went by and then came the day where his bandages were supposed to be taken off. His family were all there to see him. What he would look like as the doctors unwrapped the bandages from Jeff's face. Everyone was on the edge of their seats, and they waited until the last bandage holding the cover over his face was removed.
Let's hope for the best,
said the doctor. He quickly pulls the cloth, letting the rest fall from Jeff's face.
What the fuck?
Jeff's mother screamed at the sight of his face. Louis and Jeff's dad stared awestruck at his face.
What happened to my face?
Jeff said he rushed out of bed and ran to the nearest mirror, where he looked at his face. It was horrible. His lips were burned to a deep shade of red. His face turned into a pure white colour, which didn't really change. And he had suddenly grown to 6'4". He slowly put his hands to his face. It had a sort of leathery feel to it now. He looked back at his family.
Jeff,
Said Lou.
that's not that bad.
Not bad, said Jeff.
It's perfect.
His family were equally surprised. Jeff started laughing uncontrollably. His parents noticed that his left eye and hands were twitching.
Jeff, are you okay?
Oh,
Okay. I've never been more happy. Look at me. This face goes perfectly with me.
he couldn't stop laughing. He stroked his face, feeling it, looking at the mirror. What caused this? Well, you may recall, is this a fucking flashback? That when Jeff was fighting Randy, something in his mind, his sanity snapped. Now he was left as a crazy killing machine. That is, his parents didn't know this. Oh my.
Doctor, is my son alright, in the head?
Oh yes, this behavior is typical for patients that have taken very large amounts of painkillers. If his behavior doesn't change in a few weeks, bring him back here, and we'll give him a psychological test.
Oh, thank you, Doctor. Jeff, sweetie, it's time to go.
Jeff looks away from the mirror, his face still formed into a crazy smile.
Okay, Mommy.
His mother took him by the shoulder to get his stuff,
This is what came in.
said the lady at the desk. Jeff's mom looked down to see the toy gun that Jeff was using at the birthday party. They retrieved it and left, not knowing it was their final day of life. Jeff's mother woke to a sound coming from the bathroom. It sounded like someone was crying. She slowly walked over to see what it was. When she looked into the bathroom, she saw a horrendous sight. Jeff had taken a knife and carved a smile into his cheeks.
Jeff, what are you doing?
Asked his mother. Jeff looked over to the mother.
I couldn't keep smiling, Mommy. It hurt after a while. Now I can smile forever.
Jeff, your eyes?
His eyes were seemingly never closing.
I couldn't see my face. I got so tired, and my eyes started to close. I burned out the eyelids, though, so I could forever see myself. My new face.
Jeff's mother slowly started to back away, seeing that our song was going insane.
What's wrong, Mommy? Aren't I beautiful?
Yes, son. Yes, you are. Let me get Daddy so he can see your face.
She ran in the room and shook Jeff's dad from his sleep.
Honey, get the gun.
She stopped as she saw Jeff in the doorway, holding a knife.
Mommy, you lied. I'm gonna Jeff the kill you.
That's the last thing they hear as Jeff rushes them with the knife, gutting both of them. His brother Louis woke up, startled by some noise. He didn't hear anything else, so he just shut his eyes and tried to go back to sleep. As if he was on the border of slumber, he got the strangest feeling that someone was watching him. He looked up, before Jeff's hand covered his mouth. He slowly raised the knife, ready to plunge it into Louis. Louis thrashed here and there, trying to escape Jeff's grip.